Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here. The Honorable Miss Nikmatuni Ayah as the lecturer of Research Methodology. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Adibatul Isna from Accounting B. In this opportunity, I'd like to present my final project proposal with the title Drafting of Cash Flow Statement at Menara Kudus Printing Period 2020. The topic of this presentation today is divided into three parts. Part 1, Introduction. Part 2, Literature Review. Part 3, Research Method. I will start this presentation by explaining the background of the problem first. Background, I have 4 points for the background. First, one of statement that must be reported is cash flow statement. Cash flow statements are one of the 5 components of financial statement that must there is, as according to the Indonesian Institute of Accountants in SAK ETAP. Cash flow statement is important because it's used to calculate free cash flow and calculate cash flow statement analysis so that it can provide information about the company's financial strength and ability to generate cash and cash equivalents. My object is Menara Kudus Printing, placed in Besito Street, number 35, Krapia, Kudus. This company not drafting a cash flow statement until the end of 2020. Formulation of the problem is 1. How to drafting a cash flow statement at Menara Kudus Printing period 2020. 2. How to calculate free cash flow at Menara Kudus Printing period 2020. The purpose of this study is 1. To drafting a cash flow statement of Menara Kudus Printing period 2020, and then 2. Calculating free cash flow of Menara Kudus Printing period 2020. The benefit is 1. Improve accounting knowledge and insight in drafting a cash flow statement. 2. Improve ability of preparing cash flow statement in the company environment. And then 3. Become a reference for the next researcher. The next part is literature review. I will explain to you about definition of cash flow statement first. Cash flow statement is a report that contains information on change in cash from operating, investing, and financing activities that occur during a certain period. And then method of cash flow. Stis et al. Explain that there are 2 different ways to present cash flow statement, the direct method and the indirect method. According to Martani et al., the direct method provides a clear and complete illustration of the source of cash flow for operational activities and the purpose of their use. Classification of cash flow. According to Martani et al., cash flow consists of 3 parts. A. Operating activities are transactions of operational activities that are reported in the income statement. B. Investment activities are transactions related to change in non-current assets, including investment and intangible assets. And then C. Financing activities are transactions related to long-term liabilities and company equity as a company's main source of financing. Source of information in drafting cash flow statement is 1. Comparative balance sheets present the amount of change in assets, liabilities, and equity from the beginning to the end of the period. And then 2. Income statement contains data that helps determine the amount of cash received from or used by operation during the period. And then 3. Selected transaction data. This data provides additional detailed information needed to determine how cash was received and used during the period. The last one is about free cash flow. Free cash flow is the amount of the remaining cash flow of the company that can be used to buy additional investment, pay off debts, buy treasury stock, or to increase the company's liquidity. The last part is part 3, research method. Research method is the specific procedure or technique used to identify, select, process, and analyze information about a topic. In this research, use 2 types of data. Data according to its nature. There is quantitative data and qualitative data. Quantitative data is the data that can either be counted or compared on a numeric scale. In this research, quantitative data are data on comparative balance sheets, income statement, and selected transaction data. And in qualitative data, the data describe qualitative or characteristic. In this research, quantitative data are overview, organizational structure, along with a description of a status and responsibility of each section of Menara Kudus printing. Data according to the search. There is primary data and secondary data. Primary data is the kind of data that is collected directly from the data source without going through any existing search, like company profile information and organizational structure of Menara Kudus printing. The secondary data is the data that has been collected in the past by someone else but made available for others to use, like comparative balance sheets, income statement, and selected transaction data. Method of collecting data by interview and by documentation. Data obtained from interviews with company owners are data relating to the general description of the company. And then documentation. The method of collecting data in the form of documentation is often called documentation study. To obtain data about comparative balance sheets, income statement, and selected data transaction. Writing method. The researcher using description method and exposition method. Description method to describe the general description of the company and the organizational structure. And then exposition method. This method is used by researcher to explain the result of this research. That's all for me. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.